y'all? Good? No, we're so quiet. Listen, I'd expect that on Sunday after everybody's been up, having, partying all night, right?
Yeah, we're preserving our energy for the dance later.
For the dance later?
Yeah.
See, that's why I expect that on Sunday. After the dance and everything, everybody's all kind of... My name's David Williams. I work with Sentai Filmworks. I've been in the anime industry for over 20 years, worked with ADV Films, and now I'm working with Sentai. And this is supposed to be, going to talk about production, talk about how anime makes it from Japan to your living room. And I'll go through the whole process, and while I'm talking about it, if you've got questions you want to ask, feel free. If you want me to expand on a particular area, I'm happy to talk about the whole process from beginning to end. Basically, it's going to start off with the licensing. How does a show get licensed? What do we do when we're trying to decide what shows we're going to pick up and bring over here to the States? What are the Japanese, what are their interests and what are they trying to do? So basically, we have the Japanese and they decide they're going to make a series. And generally what they'll do is they'll say, we're going to make this series. This company is going to do they're going to be selling the manga for it. This company is going to be selling merchandise for it. This company is going to be doing the home video in Japan. And this other company is going to have the international rights. So they have a committee, a production committee. It's a whole bunch of different companies, and each of them has a little aspect of the show that they're working on. We'll deal with the company generally that's doing the international rights. They're the ones that are going to be licensing it out to other countries. When they get ready to start production on a show, they will come to us and they'll say, are you interested in this show? Here is maybe some character designs. Here's a little synopsis of what the show's about. They won't even have any animation. They don't have anything ready for the show because they haven't started production yet. And we have to look at that and decide, do we want to license this show? Do we think this show is going to be really good? So we'll look at character designs. If the manga has been out for a while, we might be able to check out the manga and see what it's like and how it's doing. We have to look at, what's their plans? Are they planning on doing 13 episodes? Are they going to do 26? Is it going to be a movie or OVAs? All of this stuff is going to become factored into it. So they'll give us as much information about a series as we can, assuming we're talking a new production. If it's an existing production, then it's something we can go and get the show, we can sit down and look at it and evaluate it. But most of them these days aren't. Most of them are shows that they're new in production shows. So then we'll negotiate with them. We'll say, okay, we think that this show will sell so much here in the States. We'll offer you X amount of dollars for it. And what that is, that's called an MG. It's called a minimum guarantee. Okay, you are telling them that you believe you're going to sell this at least this much, so you guarantee them this much money, and you pay them per episode if it's a TV series. So some shows can be very, very expensive, and some are not so bad. But you're paying per episode. So you pay them a minimum guarantee, an MG, and then they give you the show to work on. Sometimes you'll be in competition with another company for a show. So you'll say, this is our offer, our MG that we're offering, and another company will say, this is their offer. In the past, years and years ago, when there was more competition and lots more companies out there before Genion closed and Bondi closed and Central Park Media and whatnot, you would get into bidding wars. So you'd make your offer and the Japanese would come back and they'd say, well, so-and-so has offered this much for it. You want to up yours. And so you might up your offer, give them more money. And then go back and forth like that. Don't do that so much anymore because that actually is kind of detrimental to anime because you can't, if you can't make that money back that you paid them, then you're going to go out of business and they're not going to sell any more anime. So they don't really do that kind of bidding war anymore. You go in, you make your offer, somebody else will make their offer, and then they'll decide who they're going to license the show to. They do not always license the show to the company that will pay the most. Sometimes they'll license it to you because because they worked with you in the past and they know your work and they like it. You've got a good working relationship with them, so they're not going to necessarily, it's not going to necessarily go to the company that's going to pay the most money for it. There's other factors that can be into it. Fortunately, we've been at it so long, we've got a pretty good working relationship with most of the Japanese companies, and they like our work, so that helps us win some of our titles. After you license the show from them, and that's part of what I do is in the office, is I'm sitting there and I'm looking through the synopsis of the shows, the character designs, any other information I can find out about the series or what it's going to be like, and making my suggestions on whether we should license this show, whether we think it's going to be a really big title or it's going to be a smaller title or such like that. So I make my suggestions, and then they decide, the company decides whether or not they're going to actually, how much they're going to offer, make their offer. The Japanese accept it, we get the license, then we start the next step. The next step is generally involved with the Japanese producing the shows for television. We're going to work with the TV series here. They'll produce a show for television. They'll do an episode a week, or they'll be airing an episode a week. And they will produce the show. They will send that video to us along with a copy of the script that they use to record the show, which isn't always exactly the same as what actually gets recorded. Particularly in the past, you would get the Japanese, the way they do their recording style, they'll have a whole bunch of people in the room, and they'll be watching some of the video up there, and they'll have their scripts, and as their line comes up, that actor will step forward, they'll read their lines and step back, and then the next actor will step up and read their lines and back. You may have multiple ones. Occasionally, you'll hit a situation where somebody will miss their cue, they won't step up and do their line, and it'll get left out or whatever. They'll do several takes like that, and then they'll end up taking whichever one they think is the best. They don't do like we do here in the States, where we're recording an actor at a time, and we can go back if we missed this line, we're going to go back and grab it and fill it back in. So we get the recording, the videos, we get the audio that was recorded, we get the script. And we go through those and we start doing translation of the episode. We'll send it off to a translator. We contract with most of our translators so that they're not actually employees, they're just people that we contract to do the translations for us. We'll send that off to them. Our audio-video engineers will take the video that's sent in to us and they'll start it processing, because the first thing we do with it is we're going to take the translation when it comes in, we're going to make subtitles for it, and we're going to then put that up on one of the streaming sites for a simulcast. Say on Crunchyroll, or Anime Network, or Hulu, or one of these places. We'll put the episode up there. So they're going to do specifically a streaming version of the show. At the same time they're doing that, they've got these video masters, and they're big, like videotapes is what your master is. It's going to be about it's like a very giant videotape, except that it's all stored on the tape digitally. So we're going to take that tape, we're going to take those masters in, we're going to digitize them onto computers, onto hard drives, and we're going to take those and use those for all of our other production work. Everything's going to be done off of the hard drive. So take the hard drive, it goes one room over here where they're going to have the ADR work's going to be done. We've got another room over here where they're going to be working on the subtitles for the DVDs and the Blu-rays, and another area where they're going to be doing what they call conforming it. Generally with a TV series, when you're getting that from the Japanese, it's going to have what we call commercial blacks. And what that is it's space that they've left in there for the TV station to put their commercials. Okay, so we have to go and edit that commercial black out generally, so that we just got the episode without blank spots. They've got that. Our subtitlers are going to be over here with the subtitling systems. They're going to be timing out the subtitles. They're going to be formatting the text. They'll be making any corrections that we need to make to the translation. Most of them are familiar with the Japanese as well, so they can, after we get it back in from the translators, they can kind of spot check parts of it. Then they're going to take the video that's been processed with the commercial blacks that have been taken out of it. We're going to take the subtitles. We got over here, we got the ADR people over here. They're getting a script in for the show, bringing the actors in, recording their lines. This is all done digitally, so they're recording their lines. That's going to be then taken over to an audio mixer who's going to take the music tracks and the sound effects that you get with the shows, and he's going to mix those in together with the audio that was recorded by the voice actors. Those are called music and effects tracks. They're going to take and mix those in with the audio. That is then going to come out, the video, that, and the subtitles come together. It goes to a DVD offer, and it goes to a Blu-ray offer. Those people put the actual discs together. They're the ones that take all the video, all the audios, the videos, the subtitles, and they actually offer the discs. It's kind of like programming the disc, so to speak. They'll do a DVD, they'll do a Blu-ray, they'll burn off copies of those, and you send them to a proofer. The proofer sits there and watches the disc, watches the entire series all the way through, and reports that there's missing line here maybe, or this line's early or late, or this subtitle, it needs to be changed, reads awkwardly, or it's got a misspelling in it or something. So that goes back then to the DVD authors and the subtitlers and the ADR, and they make whatever corrections they need to make to it. And then it goes back to the proofer again, and the proofer watches it yet again, all the way through. So then once it's approved and they say everything's good, the DVD author and the Blu-ray author take that and they upload it to a replication facility where the discs are actually, they make a, they call it glass master, which is a master for the discs itself that they're going to use to stamp out all of the other discs. They're going to make a limited run of maybe 10 discs that they will send back to the office. Those 10 discs are called check discs. Those go back to the proofers. The proofers have to watch it all the way through again.
All 10 or just one?
Huh?
All 10?
All of them. Well, no, well, we have multiple copies because occasionally you'll get a pressing error and a disc won't play right. There'll be something wrong with it. So we have multiple ones to check, but they're just going to watch it once. They're going to watch one time. But this is the third or fourth or maybe fifth time that they've watched the whole series all the way through.
Always the same person?
It generally, it does fluctuate. There are multiple proofers. So somebody may be watching, kind of depends on what their work schedule is. Somebody may have watched it multiple times. Sometimes it may have shifted around. But they'll watch the check disc. If the check disc is good, we tell the replicator to go ahead and make the pressing run. They'll press it, it gets shipped out to the warehouse, and from the warehouse it gets shipped to stores. Or shipped out to you if you're buying from like Right Stuff or some online retailer. So, in a nutshell, that's the basics of what gets done. That's the basics of the whole process. Now there's lots of details that go on with that. And the fact that you're watching the show over and over, and it's not just the proofers that are watching it over and over. Translators are watching it over and over. The ADR people are watching it over and over. The subtitlers are watching it over. That's why I get a lot of people that ask me, I'm an anime fan and I would love to come and work in the anime industry. I think it would be a great job to have. And I'm like, all right. I hate for people to lose their love of anime because I'm a big fan and I've always loved it and I hate to see a fan get burned out. So, do this. If you think you want to work in the anime industry, think of the show you hate the most, okay? Picture yourself watching that show all the way through, and then watching it all the way through again, and then watching it all the way through again, and then you go to lunch and you come back and watch it all the way through again. You know, if you can do that and still love anime, you might be able to work in the anime industry then. I just hate to see people get burned out and lose it. Because that's what I used to say, you're going to make your hobby your job, be careful. You don't want to lose your joy of it. don't always get to work on the shows you really love the most. Sometimes you got to work on one that you're just not quite as much of a fan of. I like a lot of anime, which is fortunate because anytime that I've been in this over 20 years now. Anytime that I felt like, anime, I've been watching so much anime, some new show will come along that'll ignite it all over again. I'll be like, this is awesome, I love this. So just, if you're thinking about working in the anime industry, be sure that's really what you want to do. Don't lose your love for anime. Do you have any questions about the process, or is there areas you're interested in? Censorship? Okay, that's a good question. Censorship and whatnot. It's a little known fact, but the FCC is in charge of censorship and controlling of the airwaves. Okay? So they can tell broadcast TV what they can and can't do. All right? They have no say whatsoever over cable television. The FCC does not regulate cable TV. That's considered, over-the-air broadcast is considered, anybody can turn on a TV and pick that up. So that's kind of being sent into your home. You know, the only control you have is turning the TV on. Cable TV, by its nature of the fact that you pay for it, it's considered, you've given consent to have that in your house. Okay. So cable TV, the FCC does not regulate. Home video, discs, the Blu-rays and DVDs that you buy, the FCC does not regulate that. That is considered, you have consented to have that content if you go and buy it. Now, what happens with cable television is because the FCC doesn't regulate it, cable TV does not want the FCC to regulate it, so they regulate themselves. Okay? They look at it and they say, well, if we don't self-regulate, then the FCC is going to step in and tell us what to do. We don't want that to happen. So they self-regulate. What happens there, though, is it's up to every individual channel what they will allow and what they won't allow. Okay? That's why you can see some things on Cinemax that you're not going to see on Cartoon Network. They're going to look at what their audiences are like, and they're going to censor the stuff themselves. So if we say, take a show, we license it, we bring it over, we're not going to do any censoring. We're going to leave it as is. But if we say, sub-license that to Cartoon Network for them to air online, they will take it and they may look at parts of it and say, we're going to censor this out, we're going to edit this, we're going to redraw this, or whatever, to meet their standards. So it's really kind of, it all depends on what media you're looking at as to who regulates it. Okay. Good question. Yeah.
I got a hold of a voice acting script from the old Bakuretsu movie, and I noticed in the margins there's printed cultural references so the voice actors understand what the characters they're referencing. Who does that?
Well, it can be multiple people. It depends in the process. Generally, when the translator is translating the show, they will make notes for cultural references, for puns, for anything that they feel needs to be pointed out to the director or the actors or any of the production people, the subtitlers, whoever's working on it.
In the other shows, like One Only Poeme, where there's a lot of Japanese-only references for jokes.
Yeah.
Does that naturally come from you, the licensor, or like when they're doing the physical descriptions from the translators?
That's generally going to be coming, first it's going to be coming from the translators. The translators are going to be doing stuff, they're going to make notes as they go along that they will provide us with. Then the next step of that whole process is everybody that's working on it, a lot of them know stuff themselves, so they will point out things or make notes. One thing that you see a lot, particularly in older anime, is there'll be references to other shows. Okay, quite often, particularly in the old stuff, you would have, Made in Japan is releasing Pat Labor, a TV series right now. And at one point in there, the main characters step out and they stop, and running across in front of them is, and you don't recognize it, is the Spanish Inquisition from Monty Python. they run by and they're kind of like, okay, you know, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Stuff like that would pop up in the background, particularly in older shows, quite a bit. And so they would point out things like that if we needed to make a reference to it, or if there was something in the show, in the dialogue, that was a reference to some other cultural event, some other shows, movies, or anything. First and foremost, we get it from the translators, then from anybody else that's working on it, they will know things.
Funny you say Spanish Inquisition. I just finished watching every single bit of Pamphlet.
Oh yeah? There's a lot of it.
There is. The new movie soon.
Yeah. Anything else? Want me to concentrate on another aspect of it, or that you're interested in? Yeah.
I know that like when some studios get a hold of like really old animes or like the film strips, like you see it in the Evangelion, like the really early release, you see like the whole film reel kind of moving to the side. How do you guys like restore? Do you like try to restore that, or?
Yeah, that's a real problem in the early days. In earlier anime, particularly when they were doing film work. Most anime these days is done digitally now.
Yeah.
So they're drawing it digitally. Occasionally for a while there they were drawing it on paper and then scanning it in, but now it's pretty much all done digitally on computers. In the early days when you do film work, they would they'd make a cell and they'd put it down, they'd take a picture of it. And then they'd take that up and they'd put another one down, they'd take a picture of it. And quite often, if you watch the first release of the Ava series, it's really bad in there. You'll see the image will be jittering around and jumping. That's because when they put it down, they were doing it real quick and they weren't being very careful about lining it up. So they put it down and they take a picture. They put the next one down. It's off centered a little bit. And they take a picture. That was really hard in the early days to do anything about. You really couldn't do much about it. Nowadays you can digitally adjust those. And when they did the Platinum series of Ava, they did that. They went back through and they digitally realigned the frames so that they matched up and you didn't have all that jittering. Most days, though, that's really not much of a problem because it's all done digitally. Everything's lined up, so you don't have that problem.
Yeah.
But that's, yeah, with the advent of computers and digital, you were able to go back and correct a lot of that stuff. Yeah. Well, the process, the basics of the process are the same. What's really changed between the early days and now is the tools and the speed at which you can do it. Unfortunately, he's passed away. One of my good friends that I met was Peter Fernandez. He did the voice of Speed Racer in the original Speed Racer series. The way, and he used to talk about the really early days when they were doing Speed Racer and Marine Boy and all these really old animes. Their ADR work, they didn't have computers, they didn't have the digital audio systems that we have today. So they would be doing what they called looping. They would get a strip of film for the scene that they were going to record, and it was spliced together to form a loop. And that loop would be put up and would be projected, and it would just be repeating over and over and over. And they would stand there, and this is where you get the whole idea of the beeps. If you've heard audio recording, sometimes they talk about the beep system, where you'll be standing there and you'll get beep, 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 and the fourth beep is silent, but that's your cue to come in. So you'll get beep, 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 and then you do your line. That's what they were doing. That started with this whole looping system. You'll be watching the loop of the film strip going along, and they'll get beep, beep, beep. Hi, I'm Speed Racer, or whatever. And they would do that they'd record the line multiple times, because they couldn't just go in and edit things. These days, you got things like Pro Tools. You're sitting there with a Pro Tools system. You're recording the audio digitally. It's being stored on a computer, so you can take that audio, you can slide it back and forth. If the actor came in a little early, you can slide it back down the timeline some to line it up. If they're a little long or a little short, you can kind of stretch the dialogue some or shrink it some. You can do a lot more with it that you couldn't do back then. So the process, though, is still the same. You have the actor in there, they're watching the scene, and they record their lines. The technology and the tools and the ease with which you can do it has changed, and it's become easier and faster to do. That's why we can do more anime now than we could in the early days. We can turn it out a lot faster. Because the whole recording process has just gotten better, easier. So, then you get things like VHS. In the early days, we were doing VHS tapes. You would do, you had to do a subtitle tape, and you would make a dubbed tape. So people had to decide, do you want to buy the dub or do you want to buy the subtitle? DVD came out, we could put it all together and just have one. You could get them both together. That helped us because we didn't have to maintain an even bigger warehouse where we had both versions and all. Now we could just go down to one that we had to produce. And you can do a lot more with DVD that you couldn't with video too. One of the things that always got me was the very first show we did when we started ADV was Devil Hunter Double. That was our first title. And it was on videotape. We did, to get a discount, we had to order 10,000 copies. So we wanted the discount, so we ordered 10,000 copies, although at that time it took us forever to sell all of them. Anime fandom was much smaller in those days. But we ordered 10,000 copies. Well, the replicator, the place where they were making all of them, messed up. If you remember on VHS tape, there's a little notch on it. And you would break that notch off to write protect the tape so that it wouldn't accidentally be erased. The replicator, when they delivered them to us, it was 10,000 copies, left that notch on there. So we had to open up every one of them, break the notch off ourselves, and then shrink wrap them all back up together again. So we had little parties where we were just sitting there all night long, just breaking little notches off. And those cases in those days, the ones that we used were blue cases. Most VHS were black, but these were blue. And for years afterwards, we'd still find little blue notches around the office in various places. So DVD is much easier to deal with. You don't have to worry about breaking off the blue notches. And we had another issue with it once. The replicator took and, what show was it? I'm trying to remember, I don't remember exactly which show it was. One of our shows, we had sent it off to the replicator. They made all the VHS tapes. We'd ship the VHS tapes out to the store. And then I started hearing from fans some strange reports about it. And I'm like, what's going on? It turns out the way you used to replicate, okay, DVDs replicated, they got a big stamp. They're stamping it and pressing those. With VHS tape, what they did at the plant was they had walls and walls of VHS decks. And they had one master deck here that you put your master tape in. And they would, all of them would turn on and they'd all record the tape. It's a big daisy chain of videotapes all tied into the one master. What had happened, and then at the end of the whole thing, you know, they turn it off and stop. Well, what had happened in this particular case is they had switched from one master, instead of turning it off, they'd actually switched from one master that was recording one tape to another master that was recording a different one. So what we did is we ended up, you had like a couple of episodes of anime on this tape, then there was a little blank spot for a second, and then there was a training video for an undertaker talking about embalming people. You know, we're like, what? What's this? So you don't get those kind of errors anymore. Because we make the master, we know what it's like, and it just gets stamped out there. We don't have any more embalming on the end of our things. So, anyone else? I can talk about ADR process. I talk about punking the actors in the ADR process. I've done that plenty. I like to play the. You get kind of crazy in the ADR booth because when you're doing ADR, you're sitting there with the director and an audio engineer. And we're sitting at one desk with a computer, and in front of us there's a big glass window, and on the other side of it is the actor, the voice actor, with their microphone, and they'll have their script. But in the early days, we worked with actual paper scripts, and now it's all done on computer. So they'll have a monitor there that's showing them the video and shows them the script. It used to be you had to be careful because you might get sounds of page turnings or whatever when you're recording. Now it's just all digital. But you'll have the ADR director, the audio engineer, and a voice actor. And they will show them their scene so they can see what's happening. They can see where the character's talking. And then we will record it. And then we'll either be able to tell them, okay, we need to go back and try it again. I need to get some more of this kind of emotion into it. Or it needs to be a little bit longer. Or maybe we need to rewrite the line or whatever. So we'll be doing this all day long with the actors for a show. You get kind of a little punch crazy after a few hours. And you start doing strange things like I had Vic and Yana in, I think we were recording, I think it was when we were recording Be an Angel, I don't know for sure. But he was down and he had his script and he was reading his lines like this. And we're recording and all of a sudden you hear this thump. And he's like, what was that? And you got a little button that I press when I want to talk to him because he can't hear us otherwise. So I press the button and I'm like, Vic, did you hit the mic? Did you hit the stand? Did you hit the mic or something? Because you might hit the stand and the script's on, you might bump the line or whatever. He's like, no, I didn't do anything. Well, we're going to have to record the line again because we got this bump in it. So, all right, so he sits down and we start recording the line again and hear this bump. I'm like, what are you doing in there, Vic? He's like, I'm not doing anything. I'm standing. He's like, okay, I'm going to do it again. And he's like standing back from everything and he's not touching anything. He's like reading his line, bump. I'm like, Vic, what are you doing in there? Got to keep doing this line over and over. He's like, I'm not doing anything. I'm like, all right, we're going to do it one more time. And so he starts to record his line, and he gets halfway through the line, and he suddenly goes like this, and looks over at me. I'm standing there. I had found this really big rubber band, and I was pulling it like this and shooting it at the glass window, and it would go thump. And then I'd get back down. So he looks over and he sees me just as I'm about to shoot it. He's like, I knew it. I was like, oh, he caught me. So we do a lot of stuff like that. We have fun in the studio. So.
You never did have a studio in the beginning, if I remember correctly.
In the early
You filmed
beginning.
the first one in your living room.
Well, yeah, actually, the first show was, yes, you are correct. The very first show that ADV ever did, Devil Hunter Yoko, my living room was our production studios. Because the only office we had at that time, John Ledford was the owner of ADV, and he had a store called Gametronics, where he imported Japanese video games, and Japanese laser discs, and rented them out and sold them there in his store. So he was doing that when we decided to start ADV. ADV's offices at that time was a storage closet in the game store. So we didn't have production facilities, so we used my living room. And I actually, we sat there, Matt Greenfield brought his Laserdisc copy of Devil Hunter Yoko over. We stuck it in my player, and we had our translator sitting there watching the show, translating it as we went along. And at that time, I sat at my Amiga 1000, which I had been using to do fan subs for my anime club that I ran in Houston. And I typed in the script and the translations. He was translating it, and I was timing it on that. So we didn't do recording in my living room, but we sat in my living room and do our translations and our timing. And then they would take the timing that I created on the Amiga, they would take that and the digital master tapes that we got from Japan up to Dallas. And Dallas was the only place in the state of Texas that had 2 digital master decks at that time. All the other production facilities around only had 1. And we had to have 2 because we had to go from one to the other to lay the subtitles in. So we put the master in here, we'd load the subtitles into their subtitling system, and they would record that over and overlay those onto a new master, make us a subtitling master. So they did that up in Dallas because that was the only place they had it. And we did all the production work in my living room until I think it's about our 3rd or 4th show. We actually then got offices. John closed his game store, and we just did ADV then on, we got actual offices and started making real production facilities and whatnot. So, but yes, you're right.
Just because when you read the accounts on it on the internet, because the internet's always correct.
The internet's always right. Yes.
You know, it says recorded in his living room. Oh.
Well, it wasn't actually recorded because at that time we were only doing subtitle only shows. We hadn't started doing dubs. Our first dub was actually it was a hentai, and it was done. It's actually a really good show. Guy Digital Target. it's a really cool sci-fi show. It's a science fiction show, and it was the first dub we did. We did it because we thought, well, we can take and use it for practice. But it's actually a really good sci-fi show. I got to meet the creator once. He came down to a convention, and I was talking with him about how he made it. He wanted to make a science fiction show. He wasn't trying to make it. But his producer told him, oh, if you don't put sex in it, it's not going to sell. So they made up a bunch of sex scenes and stuff. So basically, you've got this nice science fiction story that's going along, then a sex scene, then a nice science fiction story, then a sex scene, then a nice science fiction. You know, so they just put that in there because his producer told him he had to have it in there or it wasn't going to sell. His producer really wanted to make that. So, but it's actually a pretty cool, if you can get, if you don't worry about the sex scenes, it's actually got a pretty good story, good science fiction story too. And that was one that we, you know, hentai in Japan it's digitally censored. They pixelate the stuff on it. When we got the master tapes in, and that's the way we'd always seen it, because we'd always had copies from Japan, we'd seen them that way. We didn't think anything of it. We got the master tapes in, we found out they weren't censored at all. We got to see exactly what was wrong and what was behind all those pixels. And we were kind of like, I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know that was going on in this show. And at the same time, Matt looked at it, he was like, oh, he's like, we're selling this show too cheap. We need to raise the price. People are going to get to see stuff they've never seen before. That was fun. But yeah, the actual recording, we didn't actually do recording until we had students. It was all subtitled. So we did translation, we did all of the production work except making the actual masters in my living room. So in that sense, yes, the internet's cool. Anyone else? Yeah. Both. We have a list of, when we're auditioning, when we're doing voice work, we do have a list of voice actors that we go through, but they don't automatically get a role. Like when I'm doing it, they have to come in and audition with me. I will bring them in and I will say, okay, here's the part, this is the character, this is what they're like. I let them watch some of the scene that I have, and let them kind of pick out, you know, get familiar with the character. And then I'll record it. And I'll say, okay, now let's try and get the voice a little more like this maybe, let's try this with it, let's try this emotion, see how it does. And I'll do that, but I'll record them for a whole bunch of different parts. And I'll record a bunch of different people for the same parts. And then I'll play them mixed in with the other people that I recorded until I find the right sets of voices that I feel work best for the series. And then that's my cast. So that's basically, you know, what we do with casting. Yeah. We didn't. No, I don't really think so. Martian Successor was not a part of the AVO license, and we licensed Martian Successor because we liked the show and wanted to release it.
But I'm sure it's almost the same mechanics. It has some similarities in the voice actors.
Well, a lot of that at that time, at that particular time, our voice pool was pretty limited. So you're going to have a lot of that crossover with the same voices. What we started doing around then was we started doing what we call open cattle calls. And that was basically, we opened it up and we'd say, on this weekend, we're open to anyone, come into the studios and we will audition you. And what we started doing in that way is we started bringing people in. We generally bring in one male and one female at the same time. We put them in the studio and we'd have them record a scene together. And we tell them, we just want to hear your voice. We want to hear your voice, see what you sound like. We'll give you some direction. We want to see how well you take direction, how you can respond to it. If we tell you to do this emotion or that, how you can do it. And so we would use that, telling them that this is not for any particular part. They're not auditioning for any particular part. They're just helping us get familiar with more voices and people who can bring in. And then as we would go, and we would say, okay, I need somebody to do this little part here in the show. We might run back through some of those tapes, or we might remember, I remember one that I was sitting in for the open auditions, and let's call them in. And we would bring them in, and we'd have them do some bit parts. And if they worked out well, then we would move them up slowly until they were able to do the lead parts. So we were doing that to kind of grow the voice group, so that all the shows weren't, there were more people to draw from. They weren't all the exact same cast.
That makes a lot of sense, because when you look at the second Bubblegum Crisis, the Desco, and then a couple series after that, a lot of the same people.
Yeah. Yeah, it starts out in the early days, a lot of the same actors, because they were the people that we had found and started working with, and as we needed new people, it was harder to find it back then. We started getting people, particularly voice actors, we would ask them, who do you know? Because they're all working in theater. They're all not just voice actors. They're also doing television commercials. I was watching TV one day in Houston, and all of a sudden I look up and I'm like, I know that voice. And I turn around and look, and on the TV is a commercial for a car dealer in Houston, local car dealer, and it's Lucy Christian. And she's doing this car commercial. She's talking about all the horrible things that she's done to her neighbors. But she's done really good things by buying from this car dealer, So I recorded that commercial. And the next convention that I was at, when Lucy was also a guest for at the convention, I arranged with them so that I went up on the stage at opening ceremonies first, and I was like, we've got a really special guest here this year, and they've done so much stuff that we want to show you some of their great work that you probably aren't familiar with. And so we put it up there and showed her commercial right before they introduced her. And she's over in the corner, she's like, oh my God. But they do a lot of different stuff. Commercials, they do theater work. So we started asking the actors, who would you recommend? Who do you know that might be able to come in and do voice work for us, that would be interested in doing these shows, that would do good voicing? So we got a lot of recommendations from that. We got a lot, we started putting out in the various newspapers around town, just notices of open cattle calls, started going to the talent agencies around there, and putting in that we need, send people over to audition for this stuff. So we started really trying to work and expand the voice group. Yeah? Anyone?
Trying to think.
Anyone here have experience in video or audio? Video? What do you do? Oh yeah? That's cool. You got anything done?
It's all like editorial.
Yeah. I love video. I used to be a programmer, and first off, I'll say you don't get rich working in the anime industry. I do it because I love it. I'm not getting rich. I was a programmer, and you make better money as a programmer than if you're working in anime. But anime is so much fun. Programming was fun too. I just like anime. But I loved doing video. I loved working with video. I did a lot of anime music videos myself for a while. And in those days, when I was doing anime music videos, you didn't have After Effects and all of the little editing tools that they've got now. We had to do it with a Laserdisc player and a VCR. And you'd start the Laserdisc player playing, and you'd hit record on the VCR, and you'd watch it, and then you'd hit pause. And then you'd go to your next scene that you wanted, and you'd hit record, and then you had to play from one VCR to another VCR with a CD in the middle to lay your music onto it afterwards. So, but I just always loved working with video. I love photography too. I'm a big photographer. What do you?
I work with audio.
With audio?
Yeah, running a radio station out there and also recording. So.
Oh, okay. Doing online radio or?
Yeah, I haven't dove into terrestrial yet, just because it's a whole different ballpark there.
Yep.
So,
That's cool. That's cool. I've got a lot of friends that have worked in radio. A lot of voice actors that we've got have come from radio, and actually a lot of the voice actors we've got have come from they're musicians, because we found that musicians tend to really know rhythm, and that comes in really handy when you're trying to deliver lines and match lip flaps, because they can see the lip flaps and they know rhythm, so they can do really well with that. That tends to help them. Yeah? No, it's good. You should promote yourself. Yes, it has. I mean, anything, the growth of fandom has helped everything. It's helped to bring out more anime. It's helped to bring more talent into it. More people are interested and aware of it. They come and say, hey, I'm an actor. I've been doing theater. I like to, anime. I've been watching it. It looks really cool, and I like it. I'd like to, do some voices for you and to audition them. The growth of fandom has been a massive part of the whole thing. When I started in it, there wasn't much fandom. I said I was a programmer. I took a job in Houston in that day because there were no anime conventions. Actually, the very first anime convention in the country had just taken place at this time when I took this job. There was no anime industry in the U.S. There was nobody licensing shows and releasing them over here. You got everything from Japan. You had to either know somebody over there who would send you copies of stuff, and you'd get pen pals. They wanted American shows, so you'd record an American show and you would send it over there, and they would send you anime in return. Or you had to know how to order it and import it. But I took a job out at Baylor College of Medicine, out at the Medical Center in Houston as a programmer, working on the Human Genome Project. I was writing DNA sequencing software for them. And I took that job for one reason, because at that time, and it was the only place you could get it, at that time, they had the internet. And you couldn't get the internet in your homes at that time. It was only in educational institutions and some government stuff. But they had the internet, and there was a group of anime fans that had come together on the internet, on a thing called Usenet, which most people don't know about these days, and a group called Rec Arts Anime. And that's where we got on there and started trading scripts. They would translate, somebody somewhere else would translate a show, and so they would send me the script. I would have a show that somebody translated, I'd send them the script. That was the beginning of fandom, really, in the U.S. It was that and Cartoon Fantasy Organization, the CFO. Those were really, and that's one reason why so many anime production companies are in Texas, because CFO, which was getting into anime and bringing it over and starting to build fandom and whatnot, had huge membership in Texas. And a lot of those people went on to start the various anime companies, Funimation and ADV and whatnot there in Texas. So as fandom grew, the industry was able to grow, we were able to bring more shows out, we were able to produce more, we put more actors into it. So yes, the answer in a nutshell is yes, it has made a big difference. Okay. Other comments? Really? What shows do you like? I like to find out what shows people are interested in, because that helps me to decide, what we need to license. Is genres changing or anything? So I love hearing from you guys about what shows you're liking, what you're enjoying. Cowboy Bebop, that was a good one. I enjoyed Bebop a lot. Yeah.
I don't know why, but for some reason I really enjoyed Galaxy Angel. I don't know why, but
you're probably one of the few that I've heard that have said that. Well, it's a good show. It's a good show.
It's fun.
It's a good show. I have a lot. I get it a lot. People are like, "Oh, that show's horrible," and I'm like, every show out there is going to have a fan. There's a fan of everything that's out there. And so I just let, if I may not, it may not be my thing. Gantz really isn't my kind of thing. I'm not a real big Gantz fan. Just because the violence, the way it's handled in there just doesn't work well for me. But I know there are lots of fans of it out there, and that's fine. You know, so everybody enjoy their shows. Huh?
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
Well, the manga ended it.
Oh. Actually, some people tell me they liked the manga better than me. I never read the manga, so I couldn't say. I never really could. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm so visual. I just can't get into the manga. They just. I tried reading several of them. I was recording Angelic Lair. I tried reading that one. I love Lupin, and so I was trying to read some of the Lupin mangas. And I couldn't get the flow. I just maybe I need that visual animated. Yeah. Pardon? Oh, language was? At that time, we started out, the work that I did out there was done in C++. I did C++, and then we did some small programming there as well. But most of it was done, and we were doing that on, if you're a computer geek, we were doing it on Sun workstations and X-Windows. So. But that's what they had. I think when I was doing that, that was like 1991. I think it's about 1991. I've been doing anime, just actually working in the anime industry for over 20 years. 1992 was when we started ADV. As I like to say, I've been working in the anime industry longer than some of these people have been alive. So, but that's cool. Do you do any programming? Yeah, what do you work in? You majored in it? I did too. I majored in it as well. What languages?
That I've touched or that I know.
What do you like to work in most? Okay. Now see, I'm just learning Java. I'm just learning Java primarily because I have both iPad and Android tablets, and I've decided that there is no e-reader on Android that I like. I'm like, okay, screw it, I'm gonna have to write my own. Fortunately, I can do that. I'm setting it up on Java now. Yeah. No, I just got all that set up. So yeah.
Actually, I have just a really random question, and you may not even know, but there was this VHS. I have two of them. I have the dubbed one and the subbed one. It was Exelion, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
Was that ever released on DVD?
No, it was not.
It wasn't a big seller, was it?
Well, that because it was so short.
Ah.
You know, there was a lot of. It was never actually. I don't think they ever actually finished all of the production of it. So there was a lot of shows like that that either weren't. They didn't finish doing the show. The series never finished, or were really short, and we just never released them on DVD.
Ah.
So for those reasons,
Oh,
so
so fun to watch.
Unless somebody does a license rescue. Discotech recently licensed Mighty Space Miners, which was one that ADV did, but never released on DVD because there again, it was never finished.
Right.
They did like 2 episodes, and it was supposed to be 6, and they never made any more.
That's kind of like Kotetsu, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those have never been on DVD.
Yeah.
That's made in Japan, yeah. I'm really liking that. And to me, when I first saw the Blu-rays, I looked at it and I was like, oh my god, Pat Rivers never looks so good. It's just beautiful. So I'm really happy to see those coming in.
Dug out all my Central Park copies of Central Park Media and watched them all through. Oh, there's a license for this now. Because I remember paying like, God, $150 per box set back then for this?
Yeah, it used to be anime has gotten a lot cheaper over the years. That's another thing that the growth of fandom has done for it. It's really brought the price down. It's made it much more available, and it's really cheap.
This is technology made it easier to full circle bring it to market.
Yes. Yes, it is, and that helps as well because when I first started buying anime and importing it from Japan, I'm getting a 30-minute episode for $100. And that's raw Japanese, no translations, no subtitles, nothing. It's just the raw Japanese. And now you can, and you know, then we started over here. You get a couple of episodes on the tape, and it cost you $25, $30. And then it went to 4 episodes or 5 episodes on the DVD. And now you can get a whole series. You know, so it's really brought the price down. It's been a growth factor, and the technology advances in producing it, so you can make it a lot cheaper. Oh, we're actually out of time. I'm sorry. I want to thank you all for coming. I'm supposed to do my top 10 anime I think every fan should see tomorrow. So if you want to pop by for that, I'll be talking about those shows and why you should watch them. So enjoy the con. I'll be wandering around. If you want to talk, I'm happy. Just come up and say hi.